Unusual climatic phenomena are ravaging various regions of the globe, resulting in widespread devastation of the world's population. In the city of New Delhi, the United Nations Conference on Global Warming takes place annually, and it is in this setting that Jack Hall, a paleoclimatologist, delivers an urgent speech to the politicians and world leaders in attendance. He warns that the Earth is on the brink of an imminent polar catastrophe that will turn the world into a frigid desert. When asked about the timeline for this event, Jack mentions that if the consumption of fossil fuels is not drastically reduced, his own descendants will face the devastating consequences in a few generations. After the conference, Jack meets Terry Rapsam, a representative of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and they share their findings. As they discuss, an intense snowstorm begins, signaling that climate changes are already underway. In the following weeks, bizarre weather events affect different parts of the world. In Japan, monstrous hail blocks cause deaths. At Terry's station in Scotland, the ocean experiences massive temperature drops. And on the International Space Station, astronauts observe giant storms in Earth's troposphere. The story then shifts to Washington, D.C., where Jack takes his son Sam to the airport. Sam, a prodigious student, has been invited to participate in a decathlon in New York, an academic competition for the gifted. Although Jack is a public figure, Sam seems resentful as his father has been absent due to a busy work schedule. However, Jack assures Sam that after retirement, he will dedicate more time to the family. While Sam, accompanied by his friends Laura and Brian, arrives in New York, they observe a large group of birds flying west, as if fleeing something. Simultaneously, Terry contacts Jack, informing him of troubling discoveries. He warns that the polar catastrophe may be approaching faster than they imagined, with no time to escape. When questioning the gravity of the situation, Terry responds to Jack that something like this hasn't happened in over 10,000 years. The narrative moves to a climate monitoring center in California, where a technician spends time with his girlfriend. Suddenly, he receives a distress call from a man reporting a hailstorm in Los Angeles. Turning on the television, the technician is shocked to witness baseball-sized hailstones devastating the city. The technician, witnessing the devastation in Los Angeles, immediately alerts his boss about the need to issue a tornado warning in California. Unfortunately, the request comes too late, and several giant tornadoes quickly emerge, destroying everything in their path. Faced with this catastrophe, an emergency meeting is convened at the Global Changes Office in Washington, D.C. During the meeting, participants discuss the destructive climatic events occurring in different parts of the world. There is a consensus that something is seriously wrong, but the exact nature of the problem remains unknown. Jack, present at the meeting, reveals that the cold currents of the North Atlantic are causing these extreme events due to rapid polar ice melting driven by global warming. He warns that this is just the beginning and that the weather will worsen in the coming days. Next, Jack meets the vice president and tries to convey the urgency of the situation. However, the vice president does not take the warning seriously, ignoring the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, in the UK, an intense snowstorm begins, leading to the mobilization of 3 helicopters to rescue the Queen. However, as they pass through the eye of the storm, their instruments freeze, leading to the helicopter's crash. A pilot survives the accident, but upon opening the door, is instantly frozen to death. In Manhattan, Sam and his friends try to return to Washington, D.C., but transportation services have been interrupted by heavy rain. Desperate to escape the city, they venture through the chaotic streets. At this critical moment, a tsunami emerges out of nowhere, devastating the coast and hitting skyscrapers, including the Statue of Liberty. Faced with this imminent danger, the group runs to the National Library for shelter, while thousands of people are engulfed by the wave. Terry calls Jack, informing him about the freezing air over Europe that caused the helicopter crashes. This raises concerns for Jack, who after research discovers that the storm is approaching sooner than predicted in the United States. With only 48 hours before everything freezes, Jack analyzes the colossal climate systems forming in different parts of the world, warning of the imminent polar chaos already affecting Europe. Meanwhile, in the library, Sam frantically searches for a phone, as the cell phone signal is not working in the location. After descending to the second floor, he finds a phone almost submerged in water. Jack, relieved to learn that his son is alive, gives him crucial instructions. He recommends that Sam stay in the library shelter and wait for the storm to pass, as any exposure to the outside would result in instant freezing. Although worried, Sam finds comfort in Jack's words, who promises to rescue him soon. The next day, as library occupants gather clothes and supplies, a strange noise echoes from outside. Looking through the window, they are surprised to witness a cargo ship passing through the area, grounding amidst the wreckage of submerged cars. In Washington, during a meeting with the head of state, Jack is tasked with informing about the situation. He warns about the gravity of the situation, mentioning that the worst is yet to come. Jack proposes an immediate evacuation of residents from the southern states towards Mexico. However, the vice president rejects the idea, arguing the impracticality of such a large-scale evacuation. When questioned about the fate of the northern residents, Jack responds that it is too late to evacuate, as exposure to the outside would result in immediate freezing. The only option is to stay at home and wait for the storm, hoping to survive. Surprisingly, the president heeds Jack's advice and orders the evacuation of residents from the southern regions by the National Guard towards Mexico. Meanwhile, inside the library, the group watches people walking on the frozen water towards warmer states. They also decide to take the risk and leave before the snow accumulates further. Sam, aware of the imminent danger, tries to warn that this is a suicidal mission, but is ignored, and people leave the library, except Sam's group and a few other survivors. In parallel, Jack begins his journey to New York with his colleagues Frank and Jason, accustomed to the extreme climate due to their research in the Arctic. Meanwhile, Sam and his group explore the library for food, finding vending machines, and shortly after they throw several books into the fireplace to keep warm. During Jack's journey, they encounter a roadblock, forcing them to continue on foot through the thick snow. They advance with determination for hours, but when they reach the top of a fragile building, Frank accidentally breaks the glass and falls inside. Holding the safety rope, friends try to save him, but the glass begins to crack, and with no options, Frank makes the sacrifice, cutting his rope to allow the others to continue the mission. In the library, Laura suddenly falls ill, fainting from fever. Worried, the group investigates and discovers a wound on her leg, possibly causing a blood infection. A doctor in the group asserts that Laura urgently needs a penicillin injection, or they will have to amputate her leg. Determined to save their friend, Sam decides to explore the nearby cargo ship for the medication, and Brian and another companion decide to accompany him. Meanwhile, the vice president, taking refuge in a military base, receives the news of the president's death during the evacuation. Additionally, it is discovered that the eye of the storm has changed course, heading towards New York. Jack and Jason continue slowly towards their destination, but Jason collapses from exhaustion, forcing Jack to carry his friend. In the library, the trio heads towards the cargo ship. On the way, they are detected by a pack of hungry wolves that appeared inexplicably. Arriving in the ship's kitchen, they find the penicillin, but during the search for more supplies, they are attacked by the wolves. Sam and Brian manage to escape to another room, but one of them is severely bitten. Despite the injury, they manage to save their friend from the wolves, then discuss strategies to escape the situation. Sam, realizing that the eye of the storm is approaching, risks going out to lure the wolves away from the kitchen. He runs through the ship and narrowly escapes. Upon reuniting with his friends, one of them can no longer stand, and they improvise a sled to take him back to the library. While Jack drags Jason through the snow, he also realizes that the eye of the storm is approaching rapidly. Without hesitation, he starts digging the snow for shelter. Luckily, he finds an opening and throws Jason inside before entering himself. As soon as he closes the door, the intense cold takes over the place, freezing everything in its reach. The young ones manage to reach the library in time, narrowly escaping imminent death. Quickly, they rush to keep the fire burning, as it is the only defense against the brutal cold. Desperate, Jack also tries to light a fire, and over time, Jason awakens to realize that the place has been completely engulfed in ice. Now, with the eye of the storm already past, Jack plans to resume his mission. However, Jason tries to warn him about the dangers outside, but Jack argues that there is no time to lose. That night, they share a tent, reflecting on the future of humanity, where Jack emphasizes that humans have faced the Ice Age several times, but if they do not act carefully, they may face extinction this time. Finally, after days of disastrous weather conditions, the International Space Station sees positive signs. They observe the storm dissipating in Europe and contemplate the complete view of Earth for the first time in several days. Meanwhile, Jack exits the tent and realizes that the skies are clear, with the sun shining. As they explore a bit, they come across the Statue of Liberty completely frozen and ships wrecked in a sea now transformed into ice. After enduring days of agony and unbearable suffering, they finally reach Manhattan. However, upon reaching the exact location of the library, guided by a GPS, they are devastated to discover that it has been completely covered by ice. With all hope lost, the two prepare to leave, but soon notice a small opening in the snow, and without hesitation, Jack enters the library through this opening, followed closely by Jason. Inside the library, they begin the search for Sam, and fortunately, after some time, father and son reunite after weeks of separation, and amid the terrifying weather conditions, Sam and his group manage to survive thanks to the fire. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the vice president receives the news that there are survivors in New York. Excited, he announces live on television that a major rescue operation will be initiated to recover anyone trapped in the northern states. In the final scene, helicopters arrive in Manhattan, where to everyone's surprise and joy, several people are found alive. They gather on the rooftops of buildings, eagerly awaiting rescue. The helicopters also reach Jack and his group, who are finally evacuated to the south. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, turning on notifications to receive more videos. Also, let us know the name of the movie you would like us to recap for you, and remember, until next time.